Racial and social injustice. The storyteller of Riverlea explores renowned South African author Chris Van Wyks' influences as a poet, as a political activist and a writer. Born in Soweto, Van Wyk has written over 20 books, including poetry collections and children's books and many more. Now this production will delve more into the man and literary scorer that he was. And to tell us more about the production, we're joined by Zane Meas, who is a writer and actor. Very good morning to you, Zane.
Good morning, Sabir. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you, man. And the storyteller of Riverlea takes us through the life of Mr. Van Wyk. Why do you think this is an important story to tell?
Well, you know, this is really a tribute to Chris Van Wyk and his work and the man that he was. This year will be the 5th year that we'll be celebrating or commemorizing his death. Chris was known famously for his poem, He Fell from the 9th Floor. Which he wrote way back when he was 18 years old in the 70s. He was 18 years old at the time. Since then, he has written a children's version of A Long Walk to Freedom, and 2 of his most famous books are his memoirs, Surely Goodness and Mercy and Eggs to Lay, Chickens to Hatch, which got everyone reading and which has won many awards. Chris died, and the reason why I'm doing this play is because Chris was a friend of mine. And I thought this would be a wonderful way to commemorate his life and the amazing thing that he's done. You know, so many of our writers, especially poetry and even prose, I suppose, from communities, previously disadvantaged communities, aren't celebrated that much. And Chris has done so much. He's probably more well-known overseas than what he is here. So this is my way of just saying, hey, people, this was Chris, this was his life. Let's celebrate this.
Sure. I mean, you playing the role of Chris must be a huge milestone for you.
Yes, well, he was a good friend of mine. I wouldn't have been in the acting industry if it hadn't been for Chris. In my matric year, we took one of his short stories and adapted it into a play, for which I then won an award. So I went to go and study drama at Wits University.
Get out of here.
And then after that, we collaborated on a number of things. And my director, Christo Davids, and I both played Chris Van Wyk in Janice Honeyman's production of Surely Goodness and Mercy at the Market Theatre about 10, 12 years ago. So this is a good way to just... Well, I'm not closing any circles. I'm hoping that this production has legs and that it travels around the country and that people get to know who Chris Van Wyk really was.
Indeed, and for those who may not know Chris Van Wyk, what do you think would have been his standout writing throughout the course of his life?
Well, as I said, his poetry. He wrote some amazing poetry. His most famous poem is, of course, He Fell from the 9th Floor, which was the excuse the security police made during the apartheid years for people that, specifically Ahmad Timol, who fell out of the 9th floor of John Foster Square in Johannesburg, the police station. And they came up with all sorts of excuses. Chris then took those excuses and wrote it into a poem. He fell from the 9th floor. He slipped on a bar of soap while washing. He hanged himself. He slipped while hanging himself while washing. He comes up with these...
That's deep, eh?
Yes,
That's deep,
he takes all the excuses and mixes it up. And that's his most famous poem, obviously. And many, many others after that, children's books. He loved going to schools and telling children about the importance of reading. And he'd do it for free. He'd just go. People would invite him. He'd go and read stories to children and that kind of stuff. And
yeah, go on.
So this was the heart of Chris Van Wyk. This is the man that he was, that he... and you know, today, when I talk to my kids, or when people write me messages, I can see they don't read often because they do SMS talk or WhatsApp speech, you know? Grr, 8. People don't know how to spell anymore because they're not reading. And this is part of also my mission with this play, is to get people to want to leave the theatre and, number one, go and read something by Chris, but also understand that they've got to just read, whether it's a newspaper or pamphlets or whatever, but reading is what our youth need today. They need to read. They can't spell, they can't speak.
No, we can't overemphasize the importance of that, hey?
Yes.
And his memoirs pay tribute to quite a number of people in his community as well as family members. So what is it that you think people should take away after watching this film?
Well, you know what the nice thing about what Chris said once about his writing is that he spoke about ordinary people around him. And he made them realize that their lives, no matter how mundane or how simple they think it is, was worth something, that it mattered. And he told the world about this. And the amazing thing is, he says, the world listened. People listened to the stories and they loved it. And I think that's the thing that is very vital as well. All of us have a story to tell. Our lives matter. You know, irrespective of what we think, where we are, what our status is, or our lives matter. and our stories are worth telling.
Stories are worth telling indeed.
Yes.
Eh? And where can we see this film?
You can come to the Market Theatre. It's a live theatre piece.
Okay.
We start performing from the 25th. It's a one-man show. I'm performing by myself. From the 25th of January to the 24th of February.
Okay.
1 month exactly.
Okay.
At the Market Theatre, the Manny Manham Theatre. Please come and see it. It's a vital piece. I want people to see this. It's a different angle to his memoirs in that. It's a more personal look into the life of Chris Van Wyks. I worked with his sons on the script, and they gave me a lot of personal information that we've weaved through the story. So from the 25th of January to the 24th of February at the Market Theatre, and you can book at the theatre or through CompuTicket.
And more importantly, because it'll be showing some of the racial injustices that people have been subjected to in the past. That's a very, very important film to watch. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.
Well, Zane Meas talks to us about the production of Van Wyks, the storyteller to Riverlea, which will be taking place at the Market Theatre from the 25th of January to the 24th of February. This is Morning Live. Let's take a coffee break.